Hey everybody, welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast. My name is Ashinity. This is presented by the Triple S League. Check us out on YouTube for game guides, reviews, music videos, comedy videos, all kinds of fun gaming content. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Obsidian, who I'm not sure how much talking he's actually going to do today because he seems to have come down with another case of what is it, ghoulitis or...
No, just impolite people coughing in the direction of strangers because they don't want to cough on their dog.
Well, we wouldn't want to give diseases to Fido's fleas now, would we?
No, that would be like horrendous. So anyways, I'm going to be, please bear with me. We didn't want to delay the podcast again, so I'm going to tough it out, and maybe you can like scramble my voice so I sound like one of those strangers on the phone, calling with information about Stan's dad.
Oh, right, that would not sound more horrifying than this. I just found a mint in my pocket. Where the hell did this come from? The random stuff you find in the pockets of a jacket that you haven't worn in a few days. It hasn't been that long. Okay, by the way, there's a new way to support content creators that costs you nothing. You know those tipping services like there's Patreon obviously, but then there's other services that let you tip content creators. Well, how would you like to tip content creators without paying anything out of your own pocket? There's a new way called Gawkbox. I'll put the link in the description. So gawkbox.com/the Head there on your mobile device. And if you sign up for an account, you can support the Triple S League and any other content creators you love that are on the service by interacting with sponsors, and it costs you nothing. So this is a very innovative new service that's available. We're in the beta for it right now. So we'd ask you to check it out, and we'd very much like to see how it works. So I invite you to do that.
So that way we can actually say that our new sponsor is all of you who are listening. That'd be really cool.
Doesn't that just warm your heart? All of you are our sponsors. Okay, so Cuphead is one of the most amazing games that has ever existed. I'm just going to put that right out there. Now, if only my recording system would stop screwing up on me, I'd actually be able to get more videos out of all the bosses whose asses I have kicked, but now have to re-kick because I keep losing the recordings of it. But I've been thinking about what is it that makes this game so amazing. I mean, it's a boss rush game, which is, it's something you don't see often. So it's like a platformer boss rush game. It does have some platforming levels. Mm-hmm. But the gameplay, I mean, obviously the art style is a big part of the appeal, the success of this game. I mean, everyone just thinks it's amazing. We all grew up watching Bugs Bunny or, old Disney cartoons. Not the really, really old ones.
You mean not the racist ones?
Yeah. The ones from this era of the 1930s and 40s. And, there's lots of questionable content, lots of stuff that isn't sort of relevant anymore. Like Disney and them, they used to put out wartime propaganda cartoons, basically. It's really, really interesting going back to watch some of those. But imagine if The Simpsons or something put out like a support the war effort kind of a cartoon. That would be really odd in this day and age. But anyway, the art style is amazing. But obviously that's not enough on its own. Part of it is that the gameplay is just phenomenally good. It just plays very well. The mechanics of the game work very well. I'm amazed by like the hitboxes on the bosses and stuff like that. They almost seem to match every frame of animation. I don't know if that's some kind of an automatic thing or if they had to redraw the hitbox for each frame of animation that they created.
Yeah, it's like pixel perfect. And those games are like when you have especially side scrollers, when it's pixel perfect, I really appreciate that. Like that's one of the things that made good platformers good is that they bothered to make it pixel perfect.
And it's so even just a little bit forgiving. Like it's not like if you just brush up one pixel against the enemy that it's an instant hit. Like there's a little bit of leeway even going the other way. So I don't know. It's game development magic. Basically, this game is a joy to play. It is fairly difficult. The difficulty definitely ramps up. The first few bosses are not too terribly difficult, but the difficulty ramps up quickly. But I'm also finding that it's very fair, and also a lot of the upgrades you buy can really change the game when you're fighting certain bosses. So it's a lot of the game is figuring out the strategy to beating the different bosses. And for some reason, like, I just don't mind replaying these boss fights over and over and over again. Even when, well, I should say, especially when I get about, at the end of each level, it shows you the progress, like how far you got towards beating the boss. And there were some of them where I was literally at like 99.5%, and I'm like, it's like 2 more shots and he would have been dead.
That's funny.
That just makes you want to play it again. But
I did always enjoy doing those 0.2% wipes on like Certharion or like Onyxia back in the day. Yeah, good stuff. It's 0.01. It's like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, no kidding, hey? So yeah, this is kind of unintentionally turned into a Cuphead review, but no, it's an amazing game. I highly recommend it. And I wonder now if the success of Cuphead means we're going to see a lot more really highly artistically stylized games coming down the pipe in the near future. I don't know. What do you think?
I think so, yeah. I think, like, basically the market says, hey, this is really cool. We really like this, out there animation kind of stuff.
No, it's really good. A really, really good art style can really impact. I was thinking about what would Cuphead be if it was just sort of ordinary animation? Would it be nearly the game that it currently is? And I don't think so. The art of the game really has an impact on the overall quality of the game. It would probably still be quite a successful game, but I don't think it would have sort of the massive impact culturally that it's having in the gaming world right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's been playing this game. Like,
I think this is definitely the one of 2017. And then I think that the big stylized game of 2018 is going to be The Last Night. It's that cyberpunk, like, futuristic dystopian world kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, that one. I'm looking forward to that one. On my to-play list, it looks fascinating. Because, yeah, and that one, you watch the trailers for it, you're like, what exactly is this game about?
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely recommend Cuphead, and kudos to Studio MDHR for making such an amazing game, and they've been at it for a long time. This has been in development for quite a few years, which is normal for a game, but like this one, I just imagine, man, the time that went into frame by frame animating every aspect of the game, every boss, every phase of each boss, and then just not to mention the planning that goes into just finding interesting, fun bosses, and they all have multiple phases that are so unique. So it's like, okay, this guy, he's a blob, and then he's a bigger blob, and then you kill him, and then his tombstone comes to life, and that attacks you. It's like, okay. There must have been some fun planning meetings for coming up.
You haven't had to fight off tombstones before? Really?
Not except that one time.
That seems a little weird to me.
Podcast this week sponsored by MMOGamerStore.com, your source for alpha and beta keys for the latest upcoming games.
If you are skeptical on Battlefront 2, you can grab some early access beta keys for really cheap right now.
Wow. Check them out, MMOGamerStore.com. So, the top guy, PlayStation, stepped down this week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I heard a bit about this. I don't think there's really any details of why he stepped down. So it was an actual, like, him resigning, not the company canning him?
Well, he's moved into a kind of like a board position now.
Oh, right, okay.
So there is some definitely some weirdness going on, because it wasn't like he hasn't talked about retiring. He's still like kind of at the peak of his career. It would have made more sense if he stepped down like, a year or so ago where PlayStation was 100% at the top, but they're facing a fair bit of criticism right now. So that may have played into it a little bit, but the criticism wasn't even that bad. Maybe it's kind of like a more internal thing, or maybe it's just a midlife crisis kind of thing.
He's been around for quite a while, hasn't he? Wasn't he?
Yeah. It's definitely going to make me watch the whole situation with a bit more of a magnifying glass. So, yeah, we'll see.
On the topic of consoles, though, something was confirmed this week that gamers have suspected for a long time, especially PC gamers, have often complained that when games are developed for consoles as well as for PC, that it sort of holds back what the developer's able to do
Yep.
in the PC version, because they're, obviously making the same game for both platforms. And this was sort of confirmed this week by one of the developers of Fallout New Vegas. Came out with a number of the things that they were not able to do because they had to make the game console ready, as well as being able to be played on PC.
Yeah, and this is a huge gripe that I have, and we've covered this before with consoles. Of course, consoles have been holding back development of games because instead of like you're building to the newest tech all the time, you're building to tech that is like 4 years old.
Right.
And you have to stay with that level of technology for a prolonged period of time. Massive problem in the development world. Really, really is shackling. And that's, I think, the best term that I can come up with is you're shackling developers to outdated technology and outdated hardware.
Is that going to change now that the console development cycles are so much shorter, though? It's down to about 2 to 2.5 years now.
Well, yes and no, but in part of that is that the consoles can't even keep up with a cycle of like 2.5 years, and it's not even that hard. It's like throwing in a minor upgrade into your computer is only going to cost you like anywhere between $50 and like $250, versus like these consoles where it's like every time the new console rolls out, you got to dip in and spend around $500. So it's super easy to upgrade PCs. It's not easy to upgrade consoles at all. They've never made it so that it's been good, and they're really bad at scaling. So unfortunately, like, it's kind of a two-way street, because the consoles have definitely been a boon to the game industry, but at the same time, it comes with a lot of limitations and drawbacks and side effects that aren't really that good.
Is this one thing that's just going to have to change in the near future? Like, are you going to have consoles that have modular upgrades?
No. What we will see in the future is that the consoles will start streaming their content more and more and more and more. And they'll do it because then they can say, like, hey, you can play this game on the latest graphics, and then you can. But it's like you don't own it, and then the second that the game doesn't make enough money, then you're never going to be able to play the game again, and you don't have a hard copy of it, and you don't own a copy of it, and you can't play it offline or something like that. But then they might come up with, the solutions that we're seeing now with the older consoles, with the Nintendo and the NES, and releasing like miniature versions. And now the newest one, join that phrase, is the Commodore?
On the other hand, though, it seems like having an older game available for streaming shouldn't be a big problem for these companies.
I mean, it depends, right? Like, it depends. So there are games now that companies don't want to do that because it's just a lot of data, and it clogs down their system, and it's really expensive. And we'll see that with like the 4K games. Like, 4K games will come out, and in a few years they get, they're not as popular. So they switch to the newer games. But if you want to play that older 4K version that was only available via streaming, now you can't. But I mean, I'm sure they'll package it up at some point and then resell it to you again, because that's what that's the way that the industry has evolved so far. Is like, now I'm going to be buying, like Zelda 3 or Zelda 2. I'm going to be buying it for like the 8th time. It's like, my goodness, where's the line? But developers and publishers know that that's a thing that people do now. So, it's like, yeah,
people
sure.
are willing
why not?
to,
It makes us millions.
They'll make all the money they can.
I mean, ultimately, it's a trade-off that we're going to have to deal with. And that's probably why game companies are doing what they're doing. So I can't really fault them because it works. But eventually, I'm convinced that eventually the public will just kind of rebel against this concept. But then, a new company will offer a new solution.
Well, that's the risk, right?
It's still mind-boggling to me that you still have to pay a monthly subscription for World of Warcraft. Like, why that game hasn't gone free to play is completely beyond me.
Yeah, the model has completely changed now. The subscription models for online games, that's gone the way of the dinosaur like years ago.
And yet you have Blizzard, who's like, not only does Blizzard like not offer their newest content for free with like, a bit of a microtransaction system. They won't even do that to the old versions of the game, which people do, and they set up these pirate servers, and they are filled with like 40, 50,000 players at a time. Like it's insane. It clearly works. There's people who are making a lot of money off of this, but the fact that, this big studio won't change its ways is kind of like, you sit back and you're like, well, eventually they will when they either get bought out or, stop selling products as a whole.
Obviously, someone is still paying that subscription fee, though.
Oh, yeah. Millions of people still pay that subscription model.
Kudos to them for sticking with something that works, I suppose.
I'll tell you one studio or company that's done something that wasn't based in greed. And it has me really confused as to why they're doing this, because, they are a really greedy company, is Microsoft has done their mixed reality announcement this week. And they're looking to existing companies and developers of the existing headsets. And they're saying, we have solutions to the problems that you guys are encountering with VR, and using the tech that we've developed for AR, we're going to make your systems better. And then we're going to help you develop stuff for them. And that's really huge. And I'm like, why are they doing that when they could have just like replaced the entire field? Like, you come up with a HoloLens that doesn't need to be like hooked up to your computer, they would steamroll the market with that. And albeit it's probably like another year or two away.
If Microsoft knows one thing, it's dominating the market on stuff, even when the products are kind of, not necessarily the best they could be. But it sounds to me like they really are. They probably will make a crap ton of money with this.
True. And I can see ways, I'm being pessimistic here, but I can see ways that they could be like setting these companies up to basically like buy them out or take them over at some point. Like, I can see that while retaining their higher skilled people, because that's really what this stuff comes down to, is like, you don't necessarily want the hardware and stuff like that. You want the people that are the top of their field. And maybe that's what they're doing with this, and they're doing it in such a way that these that the designers and the developers don't feel like they're being replaced or taken over. They're doing it in a way that seems to be really positive, and they've announced some pretty cool stuff for it. So definitely like keep your eye on it. We're going to keep our eye on it, because this is potentially like huge for the industry, as well as huge for VR, AR, and I guess we've got MR now.
No, that is very fascinating. That is a really interesting direction for them to go with that kind of a thing, and that's going to be really interesting to see where that goes in the near future. So that's about it for us for today. This has been the Augmented Reality Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. This is a presentation of the SSS League. We appreciate your support in any way you can, whether it's just by liking and subbing or by sharing this podcast around. You can also support us using Gawkbox, as I explained at the beginning of this episode. There's gawkbox.com/the SSS League. We'll put the link in the description. Allows you to tip content creators at no cost to yourself. It's a brand new thing that is being tried out, so we're very excited for this. We've also got a Patreon, but we just really appreciate you listening. On behalf of Subsidian, my name is Ashenity. This has been a production of the SSS League. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you next week.
If anybody can send me some tea, that'd be amazing.
Thanks for listening to Augmented Reality, presented by the SSS League. If you appreciate this weekly content, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Patrons get exclusive access to podcast outtake videos, downloadable music, and RSS feed of our podcast, and more. See patreon.com/the SSS League for details. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.